The Silk Road was much more than a set of trade routes linking the East and West. This enormous belt of land, stretching over 4,000 miles, served as a cultural bridge where ideas, goods, and technologies were traded. Envision a collection of markets filled with merchants from China, Persia, and Rome, selling silk, spices, and gold, all while engaging in a rich exchange of stories and philosophies. This business boom provided seed capital, which enabled merchants to bring innovations in the hopes of making a profit. Simply put, that laid the foundation for cultural diffusion, which triggered the influence of art, religion, and science.
The Silk Road is central to the trade and commerce of the Eastern and Western worlds. Long before the modern world, globalization was introduced here, which explains why it is a melting pot of cultures. The Silk Road is most notably known for the trade of silk, which is only a small fraction of the complete picture. Alongside silk, luxurious fabrics, paper, gunpowder, exotic fruits, and medicinal herbs were traded. Everything brought focus to a certain civilization, aiding others in entering a new era. The Silk Road served as a network for greater economies and civilizations. In this section, we will look at the history of its establishment. Even today, the repercussions of this trade can be felt and would set all future eras in motion. This is all through trade routes that the world now heavily depends upon. This is a broad topic in its own right, so let us dive into the specifics and lore behind the Silk Road. The origins of the Silk Road. The Silk Road did not create itself in a day. It resulted from varying geographic and cultural factors that determined its initial paths. Asia's diverse geography, consisting of mountains, deserts, and plains, created a multitude of trade routes. The Great Himalayas and the dry Taklamakan Desert may have created obstacles. Still, they also shaped the trading pathways between the cities and outposts. Regions such as China and Central Asia were the main contributors to the construction of the trade routes. Trade was greatly appreciated during the Han dynasty around the 2nd century BCE, leading them to look for means to further their influence actively. The city of Xi'an became a center of globalization through the active exchange of goods and ideas. Additionally, the nomadic tribes in Central Asia, juxtaposed with its fertile valleys, provided a perfect region for culture and product exchange, serving as a bridge between the East and West. At first, the goods that moved along these routes were extremely important for the ancient economies. The most in-demand item was silk. It was the ultimate representation of wealth and eminence. Spices from the East were also in demand, as they were a great addition and preservation aid to food. Other commodities of ample value were metals, textiles, and even horses, which played a key role in transportation and warfare. These primitive exchanges fostered economic dependencies, which laid the financial foundations of the regions of Western China and Central Asia. Cultural exchange along the Silk Road. Moreover, the Silk Road was not only a trade route. It was also a busy road for the cultural exchange that had an immense impact on civilizations on all sides of the world. People and other travelers expanded these routes, and along with carrying goods, they came up with beliefs, ideas, and art. This created a multi-layered blend of diverse cultures of different regions. This blend nurtured a special fusion of beliefs, practices, and artistic creativity unrivaled anywhere. The diffusion of religions was one of the most prominent processes. Buddhism is believed to have spread from India into China using the Silk Roads, and along with it, it managed to change China's spiritual topography, enamoring temple sculptures. Monk Xuanzang is a notable figure who traveled these routes and returned with texts and teachings that aided the development of Chinese culture. Zoroastrianism and subsequently Islam also affected Central Asia's customs and politics. The influence remained in India and China for a prolonged period. The diffusion of religions was one of the most prominent processes.
Buddhism is believed to have spread from India into China using the Silk Roads, and along with it, it managed to change China's spiritual topography, enamoring temple sculptures. Monk Xuanzang is a notable figure who traveled these routes and returned with texts and teachings that aided the development of Chinese culture. Zoroastrianism and subsequently Islam also affected Central Asia's customs and politics. The influence remained in India and China for a prolonged period. There's no question that the development of civilizations owes a lot to the Silk Road. The cultural exchanges that took place changed lives and civilizations' identities. Advancements and innovations have set the foundations for today's world. The Silk Road's essence remains a hub of diverging thoughts and ideas that still prevail within our society today. The economic consequences of the Silk Road. So why was the Silk Road important? In addition to its primary function as a trading hub, it also had far-ranging economic ramifications. First, the movement of goods across these roads was remarkable. Silk, as the most sought-after material, had multi-purpose uses. Not only were people obsessed with purchasing silk because it was considered a symbol of prestige and wealth, but Chinese emperors and kings also wore it to flaunt their power. Spices, which improved food flavor while preserving it, were equally in demand, and gold and silver, which acted as a way to barter and currency, completed the picture. This mixture of goods formed a marketplace that existed across continents with powerful connections between the eastern part of the world and the western. These trade routes of the Silk Road deeply impacted the wealth of empires. As the flow of goods traveled from one part of the world to another, cities like Samarkand and Bukhara along the route turned into powerful trading cities. The previously mentioned cities became cultural and commercial hubs for artists, intellectuals, and commerce. This wealth from trade enabled empires such as the Han Dynasty and the Roman Empire to widen their borders, develop infrastructure, and fund the arts, science, and technology. Traders had a significant part to play in this particular economy. They were much more than merchants. They formed the very essence of the Silk Road by enabling trade and creating international relationships. Their influence went beyond the economic realm as they acted as missionaries of culture and propagated practices and ideas from their countries. These developments greatly benefited the merchant class, bringing about changes to the social order and economic policies in their societies. To sum it up, the economic benefits of trade on the Silk Road had profound implications for empires' destinies. They allowed the creation of a legacy of globalization, which is still felt today in global trade patterns. The decline of the Silk Road. The Silk Road trade route collapse was more than a single event. Instead, it stemmed from political, ecological, and technological changes. The geopolitical changes, such as the fall of the Roman Empire and the expansion of the Mongol Empire, resulted in great political turmoil in some parts, destabilizing the previously established trade networks. While empires came and went, the security that traders had grown accustomed to disappeared, and long-distance trading became exceedingly risky. Environmental obstacles such as droughts and changes in trade patterns added more pressure onto the already stretched overland routes. Trade on the Silk Road began to diminish primarily due to rising sea trade routes. Over time, traders developed more advanced ships and navigational tools, allowing them to rely on oceans instead of land for trade. The Indian Ocean trade routes boasted faster and more secure ways of transporting goods like spices and textiles. Not only did trade patterns change, but the significance of the Silk Road as a trade route between the East and West also began to diminish. Long before oceans grabbed all the attention, the Silk Road emerged, a route meant to promote trade, connecting the East and the West. Though now deemed insignificant and irrelevant, history tells us how cultural interaction and economic activities transformed the world into a global village, modifying trade and cultural exchanges for years. The Silk Road enabled ideas, technologies, and goods to go from one part of the world to another, showcasing the civilization's interdependence. The journey of the Silk Road may have come to an end. Still, its influence on history and culture remains an enduring benchmark for exchange and connection across borders. The Silk Road, then and now. The existence of trade, cross-border relationships, and the movement of goods today still stems from the Silk Road and its grandeur. The ancient trade routes allowing these exchanges have evolved into modern, interconnected trade systems focusing on interdependence and cultivating culture. The existence of the Silk Road and its principles are highly relevant because globalization is becoming increasingly common. The greatest example of the importance of China's Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, similarly reflects the legacy. BRI aims to boost commerce and economic growth through the establishment of new infrastructure and new connections around Asia, Europe, and beyond. With BRI aiming to improve international commerce, it revitalizes the spirit of the Silk Road by aiding trade routes to help exchange goods and ideas. Whether building ports, railways, or highways, BRI tries to create a 21st century Silk Road to boost trade and develop partnerships between countries. Cultural diffusion is evident today, just as it was in expansive ancient routes. Ideas, art, and by extension traditions crossed borders for trade alongside goods on the Silk Road. This diffusion is apparent in fashion and cuisine today. The connection and relations created centuries ago still endure through festivals combining various artistic styles and celebrating different cultures. We must remember the importance of communication in today's world. With all its trade and cultural activities, there is a strong reminiscence about the existence of the Silk Road, cordially verifying the presence of relationships established during that period. The unique feat of the Silk Road and the revolutionary change it has made to world civilizations are discussed in this video. The Silk Road has evolved tremendously, beginning as a simple trade route from the east to the west. The change brought by trade routes is unmatched by constant cultural exchanges. These routes helped unify empires by exchanging silk, spices, and precious metals. All of these were critical in setting the foundation for globalization. The Silk Road was a lively trade interaction that influenced art and religion and stimulated societal growth. This trade route is similar to China's Belt and Road Initiative, which echoes and strengthens the old trade relationships. This networking aid serves as a monument reminder of our divine shared humanity. The hustle culture is alive in producing contemporary monuments, no matter the country. As we finish the Silk Road journey, it is crucial to reflect on how much the historical connections in trade routes have impacted the modern world. If you'd like to view historical videos or documentaries that help give an insight into the past, subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss new uploads. Also, be sure to like and share this video with people so that they can learn about the past. Let's delve deeper and find the wonders surrounding us. Thanks for your time.